Hey folks, welcome back to this edition of Ben's Bits. I hope you had a Memorial Day, and I'd be remiss if I didn't take a quick moment to say thank you to all of those who serve this great nation and to those who gave all for us to enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy. But as we enter the month of June, I'm reminded of the law of seed and harvest. And I know we live in an on-demand society, and it's hard for some of us to allow this principle to go through its process with instant gratification and all. But as we ponder on this for a while, think of a tomato plant. And or you can substitute any vegetable, and this analogy will hold. You know I love analogies, but think of that tomato plant and how it starts from a single seed, and a very small seed at that. But as you allow it to go through its process, it will eventually start to bud flowers, which will turn into tomatoes. And that process happens multiple times on one plant. Now, that tomato will contain other seeds that will allow you to start the process over again, but with multiple plants. However, if you pick the fruit too early, it won't mature into its full potential and will be anemic. And if you wait too long, it'll spoil and you'll miss out on the maximum harvest potential. And I know you may be thinking, Ben, what does this have to do with my retirement? Well, it has everything to do with your retirement when the analogy comes into view from the proper perspective. When you utilize your retirement account, say an IRA, for example, you have to allow the growth to go through the entirety of its process and be careful not to pick it too early. But also at the same time, not allow it to go too long where it spoils. Now, how this applies to a retirement account more poignantly is this. When you make an investment, you have to understand what you're planting, because each plant has a distinctive cycle that it goes through, and they all produce a yield at various times. And you'll want to maximize it just right so that you maximize that harvest time. Right? The trick is to know exactly when to sow the seed while staying aware of what the intent behind the investment is. And we're talking about timing. Those of you who know about gardening know you'll waste that seed if you plant those seeds going into winter because it's not the proper process. But it also depends on what tools you have when it comes time to harvest. There are some investors who have a small raised garden, and the care for it is very little. While there are those of us who have larger gardens that we have to weigh the options of the size and having the bandwidth or the tools to reap that harvest. If you don't have the proper tools, you're going to miss out on the harvest because it'll spoil or you won't maximize the investment. Stated quite clearly, not all investments are the same, and it depends on what you're specifically wanting to accomplish. However, you won't need a tractor if you have a small raised garden, just like a tiller won't help if you have an acre or more to take care of. It's just not the proper tool. And they can be top of the line tools at that, but they won't help because it's not congruent with what you have to work with. And I'll keep it ambiguous from here on out for those of you who'd like to think and ponder on analogies like these. That way you can take from it what's helpful to you. But I will ask the following questions in closing, keeping in mind our mindset of investing for what matters most. Do you have a proper plan of execution to get what you're wanting to acquire? And now the most important follow-up question. Are the tools you possess to reap that harvest congruent with what you have? So that's it for this edition of Ben's Bits. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.